Okay, we're live. Okay, y'all. Welcome to For Trendsetters Only. And before I start talking anymore, I need to plug this in to make sure I can actually hear myself talking. There we go. Welcome to For Trendsetters Only. And today we are going to be fix this up. We're going to be talking about I had a brain fart, y'all. So we're going to be talking about somebody raising a GoFundMe for a dating coach and why it got the response that it did, especially on TikTok. And then we also are going to talk about how to monetize and earn an income for our creativity without it turning into us begging because um that's what it was given. That's what it was giving. And we're going to talk a little bit about the feelings of being a failure and internalizing that and really like the effects that it has on us because a lot of us have internalized and accepted that we are failures. And it is the reason why we are not able to be consistent with things. It's the reason why we will start and stop, play hide and seek with our people. And it's the biggest reason why I see people who have so much potential and who have so much to offer shrink back, especially when things are starting to pick up and gain momentum, or even when things get hard and we start to think that it's because of us and we're the reason why things aren't working out. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. We're going to talk about all of that today on today's episode. And I want to make sure that y'all are aware that something very important has happened. Okay. And that is the launch of Getting Unshy, the workbook. Y'all, I have the physical copy in my hands. If you're listening to this, you can hear me tapping on the book because I'm so excited. So, the workbook is for building your personal brand, and it's all about getting unshy, coming from behind the scenes and making sure that people know you because you are amazing, but you are also the reason why you are not known by the people who need to know you. You're hiding from your people because you're not using your voice. You're afraid to show up on camera. You're afraid to tell people who you are and take opportunities to connect with people, to network, to let people know that this is what you do, to own the titles that you have. Y'all, it's so many things on here. One of the biggest things that I'm noticing and why I feel like this workbook is so important is because I am seeing it impact people's ability to earn an income, to earn a living, to monetize because our income is tied to us being visible. It's tied to us being brave, being courageous enough to say, I am a designer, I am an artist, I am a coach, I am an author. All of these things that we do and we embody, but for whatever reason, we feel like we're still not qualified. We're still not there yet. And so this book, y'all, is going to help you to recognize how important you are, how important your voice is, your creativity, the impact that it makes on the world. It's going to challenge you to think about the things that you have accepted as just who you are when it's not how you were originally designed. And it's going to help you learn how to monetize and even confront some of the things that are challenging for you when it comes to telling people your prices, setting a price, being consistent with your marketing, being confident enough to say, this is what I do, this is who I am. So, all of this is covered in the workbook. You can get it on Amazon. And it just feels like I have given birth to a baby and now I'm out presenting it to the world. So, make sure if this is what you are working toward, if you're trying to get unshy, that you pick up your copy of the workbook. Okay. So, y'all listen, before we get into the GoFundMe for the dating coach, because that is not clickbait. That is a thing that actually happened. Not by me, but I'm gonna tell y'all the story. But before we get into that, a couple of things that have happened this week. Let me just give y'all a little update, give y'all the tea. So this week I onboarded a new client, and this is actually my First new client of the year. The first couple of months of this year, I was not working with anyone one on one for branding. I was really focused on writing this workbook and creating the content and being solid in the flow of how things are going to go, and even honestly being sure of what I wanted to present and how I wanted to work with people. Because one of the things that I realized last year is that I there are certain things that I don't enjoy doing and that I don't excel in when it comes to running a business. And one of the biggest things is that I had to accept the fact that I am not a social media manager. Okay? I am not a social media manager. I do not want to create the content for you. I can, but is that where I shine? No. I don't shine there. I am not the most organized person when it comes to that. I really am better when I'm able to think more broadly and more future, like more forward thinking, and coming up with the vision for things and even coming up with the strategy, but the implementation is just not where I shine. And I've used to feel really bad about that because I felt like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. If I'm helping people with content, if I'm helping people to be consistent with it, I should be able to do this for them, right? And one of the things that I am starting to really understand, especially with the people who choose to work with me, is that a lot of times they're not asking me to do it for them. They're not asking me to be the person that takes on all of this. They just want the direction. They want the clarity. They want someone to help make their ideas make sense in terms of strategy. How can they portray this in their content? How can they show up as themselves and be creative and fun? That's what they want from me. That's what they need help with. They need the direction. They don't necessarily need me to do the execution for them. And so, like, not fighting the fact that that's not what they need from me, and that's okay, because I can still have an impact and I can still help them doing what I'm doing. So I had to come to terms with that. I also had to come to terms with the fact that I'm just not a big fan of having like that being like tied down to really long like programs. So some coaches are more into like the year-long programs or even like 6-month programs, and they'll have like masterminds and group coaching and all this stuff where they're really building like schools and certifications and things that take some time. And I thought that that was the route that I had to take because I was thinking, especially with branding, like that's an ongoing thing and this is how it has to be implemented. And I remember like seeing some coaches who would have they would have like a entire like course set up in schools, and they would have these videos that you will watch and then you would implement them. And so I really liked that structure of it being set up almost like a school. And so I thought that that was how I had to work with people, like that was what I was supposed to do. And the funny thing is that although it helped me to learn, it is not where I shine when I'm presenting the information. Like it's not the way that is most natural to me. And that might be why I like it so much, because the way that I am, I sometimes need things to be more practical and very like streamlined. Because if I'm trying to understand what you're saying, and you're talking in like stories, or if it feels like it is not like really getting, not necessarily stories. Let me say it this way: if it feels too much like I'm getting a lot of like theories and not things that I can actually implement and work on, then that's frustrating for me. And I can see that from the standpoint of marketing. So if this is something that you are giving me, and this is more so in a in a setting where I am vetting you, or if this is the information that you are presenting for free, And I can understand the theory then, because if the implementation piece, if the piece where you really break down the steps and there's accountability and all of that stuff, if that is more for the people who are paying you, the people who are, a part of your programs or whatever, then I can understand there being a distinction in what you present to everyone versus what you would share with the people who are paying. So I was realizing that some of the, like, the more theoretical stuff and the things where it's like, I mean, that sounds nice, but I don't know what to do now. I still don't know what to do. Like, I don't have any steps. I don't know what this means. This feels like I'm getting a lot of fluff. And so I'm not a fan of stuff like that. So when people are very practical and when I have some type of guideline or roadmap or something, something that lets me know what to look for, then that really helps me out, because then from there, if I have the basics, then I can make it my own and I can add my own twist to it. I can figure out, okay, maybe this step isn't necessary, but I still have like the endpoint. Like, almost like if you think about templates, right? Like, if you have a template, most times, some people do this, but hopefully the person that's listening to this, people that's listening, hopefully y'all don't do this. But you know how you can have a template, and with the template, you don't just take the template as is. Like, you take it and then you make it your own. And so that is how I prefer to learn. I like it when I have something to go off of, especially if it's an industry or if it's an area where I'm coming to you because I don't know what to do. So I need help. Then that is how I learn. So all of that to say, I went off on a little tangent there, but all of that to say that I need to have some kind of direction, some kind of clarity. And so that's why I thought that I had to create my content that same way. I thought that that was how I had to work with people. And so I learned, especially last year, that I'm not the best. It's not as fun for me to have the courses and it be like a standalone thing. I really shine when I can talk to people face to face, or when we can have a setting where we can kind of like bounce ideas off one another. It can be more of a dialogue, even if it's me talking to a group of people. That is a much more effective setting for me. And it allows me to understand where people are and what they need, because when you're making these courses and you don't have enough experience working with people, then you're still guessing what people need. You're not actually, you don't actually know what they need. So you're just trying to make content based off of your ideas and not off of experience. And so um, it was a lot. It was a lot, but I'm realizing that I enjoy being able to have the one-on-ones. I love having the private sessions. So I'm doing that now. We have the private branding sessions. You can get unshy with me privately, or we can have the semi-private group sessions, which is the collective. And the collective is 6 weeks, so I'm thinking I might extend it to 8, just because I want to make sure we have enough time to actually implement things. But in those 6 to 8 weeks, that's like the max for me. I don't want to have no year-long program. If I have year-long clients where I'm working one-on-one, that's fine. But like the whole school thing is just not, it ain't it. It ain't it. It ain't it. I don't like it. I don't feel like it's effective. I don't feel like it's helping people, and I know I can't force people to do the work. But if you're buying the stuff, like, I want to know that it's helping you. So all of that I've learned. So this year, the beginning of this year, it was me being firm on, okay, this is what I'm going to offer, this is how I'm going to help people. And now I have a new client we're working on her branding and her content, which it just makes me so excited. Um and seeing her already doing the work makes me feel good. And there's one last thing I want to say on that, y'all. I'm also realizing that I really don't want to work with people where it's like a fight to like prove myself to them. And I think that this is something that is really worth talking about, especially as people who are used to like proving their worth or their value, who are always used to like overcompensating and trying to make it so that people see the value and see why they should do this, and really trying to convince people that they should work with us, or they should be with us, if we're talking about relationships, because that's a whole thing too. And all of these ways that we like work to earn the approval of people, and all the time we're working to earn this approval, and there are people who already see what we're doing, and they see the value in it, and they don't want to tussle. Like, they're not trying to fight. They don't want to argue with nobody. They just want to know how much it costs, and if it's in their budget, then they're willing to make the payment. And so this is what I that was the experience that I had. Like, I didn't have to, it wasn't, we got on the call, she already knew what she wanted. I was listening to her, and when I was listening, I was like, "Oh yeah, we would be a really good fit." So I'd like it was easy, like it wasn't a fight. And so even if there were like objections, it wasn't necessarily objections. It was just an understanding, like a clear understanding of, okay, this is what this will look like. This is how many sessions we'll have together. This is what I am expecting from you, or I'm hoping that you can help me with. Like, these are my expectations that I'm coming into this with, so that there is an understanding, not a let me prove that this is worth your money. Or on my end, on her end, let me prove that you should work with me, or let me force you to be what I feel like you should be. Like, it wasn't a fight. It was just a very simple, easy conversation. Everything was good. It was good. And so I love the ease of that. And I know that that can be scary sometimes when things aren't a fight. Like, when it's like, oh, wait, why was that so easy? And is this a scam? Because, like, are they going to give me a hard time later? But it's not. It's very clear. It's understood. And so I love that feeling. So that's what I've been doing. It's what I've been working on. And this week I ended up posting a video on TikTok. And in the video, I was telling people why people aren't buying from you. And in that video, I basically let people know that, the reason why people aren't buying from you is not because you're not amazing. It's not because people don't want what you have, but it's because they're confused. And they're confused because you are going back and forth with who you are and what you do, and whether you can really help them with this. Like, we always tend to downplay what we're capable of. And when we are having that battle internally, even if we're not telling people this, it is obvious. Like, they can tell because you won't be consistent with your content, or you don't have a steady schedule for when your booking link is open, or you're always changing your products or your services, and there is just so much back and forth and shifting and movement, and in your mind you're thinking, I'm just trying to find the perfect thing, I'm just trying to find the right thing. But what you're not realizing is that on the outside, from somebody just watching you, it looks like, oh, this person isn't doing this anymore. Or I'm not sure where they're at now. Like, they were doing this, but now they're not. And so I don't know if I should work with them, or I don't know if I should even, give them my money, not because I don't think that they're amazing, but I just don't even know what they're doing. And so if they're not a good fit for me, why would I pay them? So there's a lot to unpack with that. But that was the thought that was on my mind even this week, and just thinking for myself how there have been so many instances especially this past year where I knew what I wanted to do, but it was still that fear of, is this the right thing? Is this going to help people? Can I really help people? Are there really any transformations? Does this really work? Am I doing the right thing? Like, so much second guessing and back and forth. And so it was a lot of different thoughts that came to mind, and just like experiences and things that I know that I have seen myself do that were not helpful. So all of that to say, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. So that's the update, and I hope that you get a chance to check out the video and let me know your feedback on it. If you follow me on TikTok, it's my handle is at it's Jada West. So make sure you check it out if you haven't seen it already, and let me know if you can relate to it. There are some comments in there that of some people sharing their experiences and why they've done this themselves and how they've noticed it and what has held them back from. So it's a really good conversation to have, and I think that it is going to open up more um opportunities for us to heal and to see the changes that we're looking for, because if we're honest, there are some things that we want that we have not seen happen, and the reason why those things are not happening is because of us. So, yeah, y'all. Well, let's get into this topic, okay? One day I'm going to have titles for these segments, but I don't have one right now. So this is what's happening right now, okay? What's trending right now. So, I told y'all in the beginning of this episode that there was a video circulating that has now since been taken down. And in this video, it was a woman asking for people to donate to her GoFundMe for her to get a dating coach or a matchmaker. And so this sent the folks on TikTok into an uproar. Like, there were so many videos, there were people, let me see if I can find some. There were people saying like, so you on the internet begging for us to help you pay for love. You need to be focused on you should be focused on getting a therapist. And like, it was just like so many different responses to it. And the person that ended up being the creator of the video is Winnie Parker. So I'm trying to think if I put this episode out online or not, but it is actually. So this is the same person who made the video saying that Black people do not support creators, right? And that was a simplification of what she said, but the problem with how she said it is that it definitely was giving clickbait, rage bait, and it got exactly that. Okay, it got some rage because people were saying that Black people do support Black creators, and that for you to say that that's the only way for you to be successful is inaccurate, because many Black creators are popular because of Black people supporting them. And so that was just a few months ago, and now it has already, you know, it's already something else coming up. So the person, I think I said her name already, but again, the person's name is Winnie Parker, and she posted this. She's known for making dating content. So she talks about her dating life a lot online, and that is the one thing that people are really interested in when it comes to the people who engage on her comments. And so let's see, I found a video, y'all. Talking about Winnie Parker. At first, I thought you all was talking about Winnie Harlow. I'm like, did she get married or something?
But then I went and I did some investigation. Okay. Miss Winnie Parker wanted to start a GoFundMe, and she did, so she could get a dating coach. And this is what I have to say about that, even though nobody asked me. I'm all for it. Okay. Every time somebody hops on the internet and starts a GoFundMe or tries to raise money for anything, y'all act like they holding you at gunpoint for your bank account information. She's not demanding that you give her the money. Honey, you know the amount of times I wanted to start a GoFundMe just so I could go buy some stuff at Marshall's? A lot of times. I can't wait to get this fat bag that the universe been promising me. Yes, I will give to people who, are about to be house lit, and I will also fund things that I support. But also, if I see a little GoFundMe or something, and somebody like, I need $50 for some Chipotle, honey, I'm gonna give you the Chipotle money. Y'all be like, oh, GoFundMes are ratchet. You know what's ratchet? I just finished my tax. You know how much I owe?
Oh, I sped that up too fast, y'all. So that's one. That's actually a positive one. A lot of them are more. They're not as nice. They're not as nice, and there are some people saying, you should be focused on your son. Why are you over here on the internet begging for money? And I understand the sentiment of why people were bothered by this, okay? And so I feel like the biggest reason, there's actually a couple of reasons. I was about to say there's a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is that for most people, when they see a GoFundMe, they are thinking that they are supporting some kind of project, or you're in dire straits, like you need this money, okay? You need this money. And so there are, when people see that, like you're thinking about like funerals, or if somebody is about to get like evicted, or if they needed to cover medical expenses, like it's usually for things like that. Now, on the other end of that, people often use GoFundMe to fund projects. Like I've seen them for documentaries, or I've seen them to do some type of charity work. For like just like general fundraisers for organizations and things like that, right? And so I get why people say, why would you launch a GoFundMe for something like this? I totally get that. However, okay, however, I also feel like the biggest reason why this bothers people is because it was Winnie. And it's because it was Winnie. And I just feel like there's no way around it. Like if people don't like you, they're gonna find reasons not to like the stuff that you do. And so I feel like for people, a lot of people, it's almost like, how can you have the audacity to get on the internet and ask for money after what you said? And I think for a lot of people, they had forgotten about her until this happened, and now she's back being the topic of conversation. And so it was like we didn't necessarily forget, like our the last interaction with you on this type of level was negative. So then to see you asking for money, it's like my last association with you was nah. So this seeing this GoFundMe, you asking me for money, is also giving nah. So I think that that's like the biggest reason why people are not rocking with this whole you on here asking for money thing. And I felt like, I don't think that there's anything wrong with asking people to donate to a cause, or whatever that cause is, just because. There was actually somebody on the side of the road one day, and he had a sign, and he was asking people to give him money to buy a bigger sign. And I was so amused by that I stopped and gave him money. Like, I don't think he was homeless. I don't think he just wanted a bigger sign. And so I gave him money for it. And I was pleased with myself. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm giving my money where I felt like I wanted to. Like, I like this, so I'm going to give money to it. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with asking people to donate to what you got going on. But I'll also say this though. I feel like for her to go this route, I felt like it was a missed opportunity because I could definitely see this being something that could be really well produced. Like it could be something bigger than y'all just give me some money to do this, right? Because she mentioned that she wanted to have some content, like she was thinking about doing some content around it and capturing it. And so I'm like, if you're going to do it, then just do it for real. If you're noticing that people are responding to your dating content, they are invested in your dating journey to some extent, then you could have some type of like subscription set up where people could pay for your dating content and with a matchmaker, and you can set a goal of how many people you would need to donate to it, or to because it don't it with Patreon, if you went the Patreon route, they technically are donations. Like you're paying for a subscription, but it's technically you like patronizing them. Like that's why it's called Patreon. And so they're technically like donations, right? And so you can have people funding that project, that content, because if they like it, then they're willing to put money towards it. Not all the time, but there's a lot. It's very likely that they would be willing to, especially if you're going to be covering it, right? And so if it was something that was even put out to, like, if she had her subscribers on TikTok, or if she had some type of email list, or if she had some type of Discord or some type of community where these are already people who rock with you and who like you and support you, then sending that type of thing to them would invite a more welcome response. Now, you can be brave and put it out there for the world, but I felt like it was definitely a missed opportunity. And to me, I feel like it says more about like where she sees herself as far as her brand goes. Because if I'm thinking about what I want to do with my brand, like what I'm trying to do with my content and how I'm trying to monetize it, then I'm trying to think further than just right now. Like, just to say I'm getting some money for a dating coach or a matchmaker, that gives me like a very limited um window. Like, that gives me a very limited scope for this project, right? So once you get the dating coach or the matchmaker, what's next? Like, is this going to lead to some kind of series? Is it going to lead to some kind of like TV show? Is it going to lead to a movie? Like, I don't, like, is it going to lead to, what is it going to lead to? And even with that, like, what is the long term goal that I'm trying to accomplish with my platform? Like, is my platform about like discovering, like, is it about self-love, or is it about building relationships? Is it about redemption? Is it about being brave enough to put yourself into new situations and experience new things? Is it about self-improvement? Is it about mental health? Like, these things they're not necessarily like goals, but they're values that are leading to something that goes on beyond this project. So I'm trying to think if I can give an example. Let's say that I'm Winnie, right? And so I'm making this dating content because I know that dating content is the content that is like really like is hidden for people, right? And so I'm making this content, but then people also like the fact that I am an adventurous, right? Like, I'm going on dates to do different activities um outside the normal, dinner and a movie type situation, right? Like, we're doing more adventurous stuff, or I'm meeting the people who are outside of who I would usually date, right? And I'm doing that because not only am I trying to open myself up to different possibilities, but I also am recognizing that I have a type, because I haven't healed in certain areas. And so I feel like I'm going after the same type of man because I've conditioned myself that this is the only kind of man that I can be with. Like, if I'm used to dating people who don't text me back, or if I'm used to dating people who are they're manipulative, or they're people who are self-absorbed, and the men who are not necessarily my type physically, but they are my type, um they are my type in other ways. Like, they have the character that I'm looking for, or they treat me well, or they really see my value, or they see how we can, they're forward thinking, they have a plan in place. Like, I really admire that about him. Like, you're going for men that you admire now. And so all of that could be tied to one of your brand goals, or one of your values of, personal development and growing, healing, right? So if I'm moving with that in mind, y'all stay with me on this because I'm working through it. If I'm working with this in mind, then dating is just an aspect of what I'm doing. Because even if I get into a long term relationship, I can still talk about how I'm growing in that relationship, or how I'm healing, or how this situation is healing for my family, or how I am the first in my family to have a healthy relationship if it leads to marriage. Like, like it starts to leave a legacy of something, and it works towards something bigger than I just want to find a man, right? And so a lot of us have these aspirations and these goals in mind, but what ends up happening a lot of times is that we don't believe it can happen for us. Like, we don't see it for ourselves. And when I look at people and I can tell that what they're doing is short sighted, like they don't know what it looks like beyond this, that lets me know that there is an issue with me being able to like dream. Like, I can't see myself past my current circumstances. I don't believe that things can get better. I don't believe that they're shifting or moving in a positive way. And that's something that you should be, you should admit it. It's okay. Like, I've been there. My entire 2022 was filled with me learning to dream again, because I was so discouraged and I felt like a failure. And I was just going through the motions, because it's like, well, I started this, so I got to keep going. But if I'm being honest, I don't believe that it's going to be successful. I don't believe that it's going anywhere. I'm kind of hoping that things will get better, but I'm not moving like somebody who knows that as long as I continue to take these steps, I'm moving in the right direction. I'm working towards my goals. I would see people succeeding. I would see people who felt like they were surpassing me, and we started at the same place. And it seemed like they were getting all the things that I wanted, and they were moving so much faster than me. And for some reason, I felt like, well, that can only happen for them. It's never going to happen for me. I'm going to continue to be stuck here. And so, man, I had a thought with that. But that's what ends up happening, and I can see when that is the struggle for people. And so all of that, I know that got deep, y'all, but all of that to say that a lot of that stuff ends up being our underlying motivation for why we just kind of like put stuff out there, but we don't give ourselves permission to say, I can really see this becoming something bigger. Like, I can really see this leading to a movement. And I think that the part that made it selfish to people is that it felt like something was being asked of others, but there was no it was not a reciprocal thing. And I think that, again, she mentioned that her idea was to make content around the experience with it. Like, I'm thinking I can make some content about it, but it was because it was still not something that was like well thought out in terms of the execution, then it ended up getting the backlash that it did. But some people did donate, so it wasn't a complete flop. But she did since take it down, which I thought was interesting because if you I don't know. I don't know. I'm guessing she agreed that it wasn't the best thought out. Because she took it down. So I felt like if she felt like it was a good plan, then she would have kept it going. But that's what had happened. That's what had happened was. So I thought that was I thought that it was interesting, and it brought up some other thoughts, like when people give single mothers who are dating a hard time, which is a whole other topic of conversation, and it bothers me so much because it almost feels like single mothers aren't allowed to date and we're not allowed to do anything for ourselves. Like if it's not related to our children, we can't do it. And I never understood why someone asking for money or for help meant that they weren't taking care of their responsibilities. I don't see how those two things are conflate. Like how are they conflated like that? How are they the same thing? If I have enough to take care of my household, if I have enough to make sure that my child is taken care of, it is very possible that that is what I have. Like I can still be taking care of my responsibilities, but also be in a place where I don't have extra. So if there is something that I want, if there's something that I desire and I ask for it, that does not mean that my other needs are not met. It means that I've covered what I need to, but I don't have any more to spare. And there are some things that I would like to do. Like there have been some times, y'all, let's be real. Let's be real for a second, okay? There have been some times where I just literally wanted somebody to pay for me to go on vacation. I just wanted to go on vacation. Actually, there is this, I forgot all about this. I forgot all about this. Well, we're here. Let's talk about it. So, the year where I was dreaming, the year I told y'all, the year that was all about me dreaming, one of the things that I wanted was to go on vacation. And I said very clearly, very clearly, that I want to go on a vacation and have that vacation paid for. That's what I had said. And it was very uncomfortable. I wish that I could say I said it and I didn't feel uncomfortable. I felt so uncomfortable saying that because I've always felt like if I asked for things, I'm begging. Like I've always felt like that. And so if it was not like an absolute necessity, then I didn't want to ask for it. I didn't want to say this is what I would like. I just want this. And if you want to pay for it, you can. I think the difference for me is that I never felt comfortable putting it out publicly. But I did feel a little bit safer asking people who knew me and I knew cared about me. And so I put this out into a group of people. I was in a coaching program, and so the women in that program, we were pretty close. We were very vulnerable with one another, and so I mentioned it in the group. And so a few days later, someone from that group reached out to me and told me to let her know when I found the trip I wanted to go for and let her know how much it cost. And at first, I was very uncomfortable because I was like, "Oh snap!" Like I didn't know you was gonna do that. Like what? But I ended up finding a cruise, and I told her how much it cost, and she paid for it. And so I still felt uncomfortable with the fact that I couldn't do it for myself, but I felt good that I was able to go. I definitely needed it. Like it was a need at this point. You know, it's a luxury, but it was also I need to get away. I need to go somewhere. And it ended up being the highlight of my year. It was just such a good time. I had so much fun. I felt like I like came alive. It was just it was so great. And I loved that it was not something that I had to like toil to get and to work hard to get. And so I think that there's definitely a place where you can just ask for what you want. And if people have it to give, then they can. And if they don't, then they won't. And so as I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if I would even recant my statement about her putting that out there. Because I guess like for you to be bothered by it, I guess for you to be bothered by again, I think that goes back to my original statement. I honestly, truly, 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 truly believe that it was really only the big deal that it was because she was the one asking. Like, I think that that's the biggest reason why. Because I don't think that people have a problem supporting and helping people that they like. It's like when you're not liked, that's when it becomes a problem. But I think that even if she just had that going and she wanted to keep that up because that's something that she wants in short term, like this is something that I just really desire right now. I definitely feel like it's still an opportunity to turn it into something that can last a little bit longer. And it can really become something. If people like listening to you talk about relationships and dating, figure out why, like figure out what it is about you talking about that topic that is drawing people in, because this advice can go for any subject. Like for me, when I would think about why people like me for fashion, like why do people enjoy watching my content? Why do they associate me with fashion over some of the people who may have more followers than me, who are more popular, um, and things of that nature? And so, one of the things that I started to realize about myself is that, for one, I did not forget about the everyday person. And that was something that was definitely difficult to do at times because, as a creative person, I love to just be able to think about like the most like weird way to wear things. And I just like to really like press into the things that are not the norm. And I alter a lot of my clothes. It's just hard for me to wear clothes as is because I feel like it's so generic. I got to do something to it to make it my own. But I I was okay with showing people where to start. I think that's the biggest thing. Like I was okay with showing people where do you like if I'm not there yet, right? Or maybe this isn't really my style, but I want to have more style. Then encouraging them in their exploration of that, even if it was not as like ornate or as loud or as different as I would dress, is still you exploring your style. And I would always encourage that and show people what it looks like if you're just starting out. Like that's I think that that's one of the biggest disconnects even when it comes to the fashion industry, is that you're looking at these people who have made it their a part of their life to explore their fashion and explore their style and to really figure out how to express themselves in this way. And so you look at them and you're inspired by them, but also intimidated by the idea of trying to go for it. So I recognize that. I recognize there was a gap between the people who were, considered the trendsetters to the everyday person. And so I was like, well, I want to go to them. I want to reach out to them. I want to make sure that they know where to start so that they can have their own style and go on this journey and get to that place where now people are coming to them for style advice. People are always complimenting how they look. they're trying things they never thought looked good on them, you know? So that was one area where I knew I had like I had an edge. The second thing that I knew made me stand out was that I talked about it in a way where I would always address the the emotional and the mental side of things when it came to fashion, because even the choices that we make are related to how we feel, it's related to our experiences. Like there's like a whole breakdown of even like having your like your behavior with your style, and whether you're somebody who always feels like you have to be perfect in how you look, or the person who is just intimidated by clothes altogether and doesn't even want to try. And there's a lot of different levels to it, and those are all emotional things. Even when it comes to like emotional shopping, there's a lot of stuff that goes there's a lot of emotional aspects to fashion that people don't talk about very often. And so that is another area where I would explore and I would talk about. And so it was important for me to not just be somebody who showed you cute outfits, but I would also talk about what that looks like, and why that's happening, and why you might make these choices, or why you might avoid, wearing certain things or trying new clothes. Like there's a lot of stuff that's associated with that. And so once I started to recognize that that was my edge and that's what made me unique in this giant industry of fashion, that's where I started to lean into more and share from that perspective. And that was what helped me to understand what made me different. And so even knowing that, understanding those things about yourself in each industry is a part of branding, because even if I'm not talking about fashion, I'm going to talk about the emotional aspect of things, as you have probably guessed from listening to this podcast. Or I'm going to explore things a little bit deeper. Like I can't just take it on a surface level. You know what I'm saying? And so I love to be able to share my perspective on that. And that's honestly what encourages me to even talk about some of the topics that I feel like everybody's talking about this. Somebody's already covered this, or people are probably tired of hearing about this. But if I have something different to say, then the my perspective is welcome, even if it's on the same topic. So yeah, that's that, y'all. So we got a couple more minutes. And so I wanted to make sure that I touched on the last topic. And I think I called it, what did I call it? Um, Monetizing without begging, or not having to beg for money. Something clever. But I made it that way. I put it that way because I feel like there's a lot of people who we wouldn't have to like beg for money, and I'm using my quotation fingers if you're listening. We wouldn't have to beg for money if we were willing to say who we are and what we do boldly. And I'm realizing that a lot of us are taking less than what we deserve. We are rejecting we are rejecting the things that we have worked for, literally some of the things that we've earned. We are rejecting it because we don't feel like we're qualified for it. We don't feel like we're there yet. We feel like, you know what, maybe I should just sit on this. 'Cause I actually don't think I'm good at it, even though it's things that we have been doing for years. And all of this downplaying is related to what I was talking about earlier, with us internalizing our failures and making the things that did not work a part of our identity. Like one of the big ones for me was not finishing school, not completing school. And so I was now associating, anytime I put in work, anytime I work hard, I fail, I lose. And that became my identity, right? Like that became a part of me. I was identifying as a failure and not just saying, okay, it just didn't work out. It just didn't work out. And like, let's go ahead, laugh it off, cry it out, whatever has to happen, and then let's figure out where to move forward from here. And I know that some of us do that. Like we just move on, but we don't actually address what we're feeling. And we don't address what that experience did to us and how it impacted us. And so that's the reason why, if you have ever felt like when you start to really gain some momentum and things start to really move in a good direction, or you start to see and get the stuff that you've been praying for, you back down. That's where the experiences start to kick in. That's where that internalized failure starts to kick in, and that's where we start to shrink back, and we start to um backtrack from the momentum and the things that we see happening, and we go and hide again. So that's that whole hide and seek. Or we have a video that we put out, that video does well, maybe it even goes viral, and all of a sudden we dip out, and you we don't the internet don't see us again for like days. And that's why that happens. We have this fear of success because we are internalizing our failures, and we just assume that if are going well, eventually it is going to flop and it's going to fall on my face, and I'm going to be devastated. Like that's how deep it gets. And so what I want you to think about, and what I want you to consider in all of this, is that for one, you are not your ills, okay? Anytime that you have lost at something, anytime something didn't work out, it is not an indictment on you. It is not you being a failure. It just did not work. And when we are able to look at things objectively and say, okay, this didn't work out, not because there's something wrong with me, but because there's something that I'm missing, and not missing internally, but there's something I didn't catch, or there's something that I could tweak. There is some way that I can adjust this, or maybe I need to take this same idea and maybe execute it a different way. I literally gave y'all a whole example in the beginning of this episode of me um realizing that the way that I was trying to coach people did not work. Not because I'm not good at what I do, not because I can't help people, but because this was not the way for me to do it that I'm most efficient at. I'm not the most effective when it comes to just having a course and selling it. I'm more effective in person. Like, you got to experience me live. Okay? Like, we got to be in person doing this thing, or virtually. I have a certain way where it is most natural for me to present this way, not because I'm not good at what I do, not because I'm not called to this. Okay. And so when we learn how to separate those things, okay, separate them, take it apart. This is me, my identity. Okay. It's established, and failure is not a part of it. This thing just did not work out. What do I need to adjust? What needs to change? What needs to be taken away? What was I missing? And how can I make those changes? So we're learning to separate those two things, because whether we realize it or not, those internalized failures are the thing that is keeping us from really moving forward. It's like that we find ourselves like in a cycle, and we just keep going, and we get to the point things are going really well. People are starting to recognize us, they're noticing us, they're buying from us, and then boom, oh no, I'm freaking out. And then we go back around again. Things start to slow down. We've lost that momentum, trying to get it back. All right, people are recognizing us again. We're starting to make sales again. Things are going good. Oh, wait, no, too many people know me now. Up. We're going back around. Like, y'all see what I'm like? It just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going. And we're not breaking out of that cycle, because when we get to that point, we freak out, and then we keep going back around it. And so my challenge to you is to recognize if that's what you're doing, no matter what point you're at, because maybe you're at a point where you can look back and see, oh man, I just had all this momentum and I fumbled the bag. You know, I fumbled it. It's back there somewhere. And so maybe now you're in a place of rebuilding. That's okay. Even if you're in a space where things are picking up and you're in the momentum phase, That's good too, because now you can listen to this and you can say, okay, what are my fears around success? Like, if this goes well, what feelings might I have that would keep me from like taking that step or moving forward or taking action? I had such a good time at this event, or I had such a good time speaking on that podcast, but I'm starting to feel like, okay, people are DMing me now about this and asking me questions, and I don't know if I can fulfill those requests, or I don't have my consultation link set up perfectly, or I don't have anything to offer them. Like, what am I going to do? How do I move forward with this? And instead of us figuring out what that next step is, we retreat and we know we don't go forward with it at all. And so then we end up in the space again where we're going back around. Okay. So I hope that y'all can see what I'm demonstrating here with the whole cycle thing, and how that internalized failure is like the thing that keeps us going back into it. And so we don't have to be there. Now, that's not the same thing, and we can talk about that in another episode, but that's not the same thing as having like ups and downs in terms of like how our business is going, or in terms of like, views on social media. Like, those are natural things. But I'm talking about where it almost feels like you are still not recognizing how amazing you are, and you're realizing that you are rejecting opportunities that are good for you, opportunities that are what you have prayed for, because you feel like you don't deserve them. Okay, that's something different than just something that it's a natural season where things slow down, right? So that's what I want y'all to consider and think about, especially as we are moving into the spring season. It's a new year, because my new year started on my birthday. And I want you to really like accept that you're not a failure. I want you to really, like, even if you have to say that, I am not a failure. I am not a failure. This just did not work out. And looking at something that has happened most recently, like, what can you think about that really like shook you in terms of, oh, this didn't work out, now I'm nervous about trying something new, or I'm feeling worried about what will happen if I take this next step. Think about what those things are, write them down, and then ask yourself, what do I need to put in place so that this fear that I have does not actually happen? Because backing down is not an option. I have to keep moving forward. Let's just remove that off the table completely. We don't have the option to back down. You can't back away from this. You got to go through this. Okay. You got to go through this. So if I can't back down, what do I need to move forward? What is that next step? What's that first thing? And to go even further, if you don't know what that next thing is, who can I reach out to who might have the answer? Because I'm sure that if we really sit and think about it, there are people who, even if they aren't the ones that can help you, they know somebody that can help. So start reaching out. What is that next step? I don't want to um tell people to book my link because I don't feel like I've set the right price yet. I don't know what to charge. Who can you ask that can help you to determine what a good price should be? Or who can point you in the direction of some good software for you to be able to book with? Like, is there a platform that would be best? Or who can let you know what that looks like, if you're doing it more, if you want to start doing them in person? Like, who can help me with that first step? Because if you're just thinking that you have to have it all figured out and you have to do it all on your own, then you're putting yourself in a position to be defeated anyway. Ugh, I had another way I wanted that statement to end. Just to be real with y'all. I was thinking, I don't know where my mind just went there, but I think I just had like another revelation with this, and feeling like a failure. But I'm gonna save that for another time. Okay. But that's what I want you to do. I want you to think about, what is that first step? What does it look like? How do we move forward with it? And that's it. So I hope that y'all have, this is Friday, was it March 22nd? I hope that y'all have an amazing weekend. I actually am going to be going to an event, to a brunch that I'm super excited about. It's going to be a bunch of other influencers there. So yeah, I'm on a roll, okay? I've this 2 influencer events this year. So I'm shaking and moving with these things. So I'll be giving y'all like the details on that. And that's what I got for you. So until next time, bye.